from today. He added that extra electric train services, ETS journeys, will be introduced on the KL Central Ipoh and KL Central Padang Besar routes.
Tiket-tiket train tambahan tersebut akan mula dijual kepada orang ramai bermula pada 15 Januari. 15 Januari hari Isnin. Okay. Iaitu Isnin depan pada jam 12 tengah hari. Orang ramai boleh membuat pembelian tiket melalui aplikasi KTMB Mobile, Kids dan juga di kios-kios tiket yang tersedia di semua stesen-stesen utama KTMB.
Lok also said the Land Public Transport Agency would open applications for temporary change permits from January 15th to February 2nd. This was to allow buses of other categories to provide transportation services to passengers returning home for the festive season.
Separately, Loh says there will be no talks of reviving MyAir line until it resolves customer refunds and unpaid staff wages. He adds that the airline must also observe safety standards and follow standard application procedures.
There are a few conditions that they impose if they want to restart their operation. Firstly, they have to make every effort to make sure all the refunds previously must be made, must be realized, that everyone must be refunded first. Secondly, whatever dues to the staff must be paid. So if they can fulfill these two conditions, then only we start to talk. Without these two, no way that we can compromise.
Lok said a meeting with MyAir on Friday included details of a revival proposal following its success in securing a Middle Eastern investor in December. The carrier suspended operations in October last year, citing financial pressures.
The government has not received any information on the alleged Made in Malaysia door plug that was recently blown off an Alaska Airlines flight. Transport Minister Anthony Loh says any official reports from the airline will be referred to the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia for further investigation.
Saya tak boleh komen sebab itu yang pertamanya dia bukan bawah kawal selia kita dan saya tak boleh bagi satu komen yang secara umum dan kita pun tak tahu sama ada itu sahih atau tidak. Itu hanya mengikut laporan media daripada seorang pemerhati ataupun orang ramai. Okay.
The Boeing 737 MAX 9 door plug had come off an Alaska Airlines flight on January 5th, forcing the plane to turn back. The missing door plug was then found in a teacher's backyard in Portland, Oregon. According to a report by the Oregon Public Broadcasting News Portal, writing on the door plug in permanent marker claimed that it was made in Malaysia. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak confirmed that he has received the report on the Japanese firms that are pulling out of the high-speed rail project. This comes just 3 days before the deadline for the submission of the Request for Information (RFI) concept proposals for the project.
Japanese news outlet Kyodo News earlier reported that Japanese firms had initially intended to utilize the Shinkansen bullet train system for the 350-kilometer rail project, but later decided against it. Citing government and company sources, the report said it would be too risky for the firms to do so without financial assistance from the Malaysian government. The report said this could pave the way for Chinese firms to secure the project, following completion of a high-speed railway in 2023 in Indonesia and another in progress in Thailand. The government began soliciting bids in July 2023, with the intent to finance the estimated 100 billion ringgit project through private financing, rather than by government spending or extending debt guarantees.
Meanwhile, the government will look into a request by former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak to remove a documentary on streaming platform Netflix about the 1MDB scandal. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Brahim says he will leave it up to the Communications Ministry to decide on the matter.
Najib's lawyers claim that some statements amounted to contempt of court and prejudicial to Najib's defence in his ongoing 1MDB trial. They demanded to the Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil and the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission MCMC for the documentary to be taken off the air. They also urged the government to take action against the documentary's production crew for distributing offensive content. The documentary, titled Men on the Run, revolves around the role of fugitive businessman Jolo in the 1MDB scandal.
The Rahma initiative will be expanded with greater participation from industries and the private sector. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister, Dato' Armizan Ali, said the Ihsan Rahmah will be one of the major initiatives under the Payung Rahmah concept for 2024.
Through the initiative, Armizan said industries and the private sector will be given space to come up with initiatives and programs based on the guidelines of the Payung Rahmah concept. They can take the form of charitable programs for the community and employers via discounts, rebates and cash returns. Armizan stressed that though 200 million ringgit was allocated for the execution of the Payung Rahmah programs, it would not be enough to cater for all Malaysian citizens, stressing the importance of the private sector and industries to fill the gap. Separately, Armizan said a dedicated calendar to be published on the ministry's website would soon be available to keep the public informed of the Rahmah sales programs happening near them.
Meanwhile, the opposition has not submitted a motion of no confidence against the Prime Minister. The Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Johari Abdul said they could do so now, even though the first session of the third term would only begin next month.
He was responding to claims by the opposition that there was no guarantee a motion of no confidence would be allowed to be tabled against Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Johari said whether a motion is accepted or not is the decision of the Dewan Rakyat Speaker based on the procedures and rules set by the August House. Earlier, Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil pointed out that Anwar had invited the opposition to file a motion against him twice last year, but the opposition did not do so.
The police has detained a man to help in the investigation into an arson case at the residence of Beruas MP Dato' Ngee Kuham. Perak Police Chief Dato' Sri Muhammad Yusri Hassan Basri said that the suspect in his 30s was arrested in Shah Alam at about 4 this morning. He said that checks found that the man had no previous criminal record and he was remanded for 5 days until Tuesday for further investigation. He added that the case was being investigated under Section 435 of the Penal Code, which carries a maximum prison sentence of 14 years and a fine if convicted. In the early morning incident on Wednesday, 3 cars parked on the porch of Nge's house in Aitawa were damaged when a Molotov cocktail was thrown into the compound. In other news, there is no need for field hospitals as COVID-19 cases have decreased, says Dato' Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad. However, the Health Minister assures that the ministry is prepared for any eventuality.
He said all measurements, including the prevalence, deaths, ICU bed usage and hospital admissions are showing a downward trend. According to Dr. Zulkifli, although the ministry anticipated a rise in COVID-19 cases ahead of the festive season, the public has been cooperative in bringing January's numbers down. He said as we reach the stage of living with the virus, the public should not panic but also remain vigilant, reminding Malaysians to continue taking precautionary measures against the virus.
We will go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Israel has rejected allegations made by South Africa at the International Court of Justice that its operations in Gaza amount to a state-led genocide campaign. It says the allegations are baseless, claiming that South Africa is acting as a mouthpiece for Hamas. South Africa, which filed the case at the World Court in December, had asked judges to impose emergency measures ordering Israel to halt its military operations on Thursday. It said the country's air and ground offensive, which has killed more than 23,000 Palestinians, was aimed at wiping out the population of Gaza. But the legal advisor to Israel's foreign ministry said its actions in Gaza were acts of self-defense against Hamas and other organizations. He added that South Africa's interpretation of events was grossly distorted and that the order to halt military operations was intended to render Israel defenseless. The court is expected to rule on possible emergency measures later this month. The US and UK forces have bombed more than a dozen sites used by Houthi rebels in Yemen late on Thursday. US President Joe Biden says the strikes are in response to attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthis on ships in the Red Sea since November. The strikes, also with support from Australia, Canada, the Netherlands and Bahrain, were reported in the capital Sana'a, the Houthi Red Sea port of Hudaydah and northwestern Houthi stronghold of Saada. The Houthis' deputy foreign minister warned that the US and UK will pay a heavy price for the aggression. The Houthis control much of Yemen and say they are supporting its ally Hamas by attacking ships in the Red Sea headed for Israel after the war started on October 7th. The Houthi threat along this major trade route has become so great that major shipping companies have stopped sailing in the region and insurance costs have risen tenfold since early December. South Korean actors and filmmakers, including Bong Joon-ho, the director of the 2019 film Parasite, have called for an investigation into police and media conduct in relation to late actor Lee Sunun. They are urging authorities to look into whether police handled Lee's case without violating security and privacy rules.
Lee, best known globally for his performance in Parasite, was found dead in an apparent suicide last month after a 2-month police investigation over suspected drug use. He had been dropped from television, film and commercial projects when news of the investigation broke in October, costing him an estimated $7.8 million. Following Lee's death, police were accused of leaking confidential details of their investigation to the media, even after several drug tests came back negative. At a news conference, Bong and other entertainment industry figures denounced sensationalist media coverage focusing on Lee's private life, which they said had damaged his reputation. They also called for stronger legislation to better protect artists and entertainers, as well as responsible journalism. South Korea has the highest suicide rate among developed countries.
Voters will head to the polls in Taiwan tomorrow to elect a new president and parliament amid increasing tensions between the self-governing island and China. Taiwanese voters will choose a new leader to succeed Tsai Ing-wen, Taiwan's first female president, who is finishing her second term after winning elections in 2016 and 2020. She must step down due to term limits.
Voters will be choosing their president from 3 candidates without a clear favorite. Lai Ching-te, Taiwan's current vice president, is from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which is known for its more pro-independence leanings. Ho Yo-i from Kuomintang Party is a former police officer and current mayor of New Taipei. He is advocating for closer relations with mainland China. The third candidate is Ko Wen-je from Taiwan People's Party. The former mayor of Taipei said he will follow President Tsai's foreign policies, but also advocated for talks with Beijing. Nearly 20 million people in Taiwan are eligible to cast their ballots on Saturday. Around 1 million will be first-time voters. The future of relations with China isn't the only issue the Taiwanese public will be voting on in the presidential election. Low wages, housing affordability, energy security, and inflation are among the key economic issues on the minds of voters, especially younger voters.
That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I am Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.